in 2002, we packed up our car and our two toddlers and moved from Bellingham down to Mukilteo with the idea that we're going to start a church somewhere in the Alderwood area.
We were told when we started Brookview that church planting was really difficult. We were heading into the most unchurched area in the nation, and that 6 out of 10 churches wouldn't survive into their 5th birthday. In obedience to him at that time, it didn't feel really scary. It actually was life-giving. It felt like we were about to be on an adventure together, and we were really excited about what God might do.
We wanted to be a church where marriages would be strengthened, because marriage can be hard. Not with you, but marriage can be hard. We wanted to be a church where parents would get the help that they need to raise their kids and love their kids and be connected to their kids. We wanted people that feel inadequate or ashamed to be set free from that and to recognize that God, they are loved and God cares for them deeply. For people that are far from God and that are running from God, would begin to see how good he is and turn around and start running toward him and running to him. We wanted to be a place where people would discover their gifts. People that began to run to God would discover not only that he loved them, but that he's gifted them to do things in this world that are unique to them. And then we wanted to be a church where we together would come together as a community, and we would bring those gifts that we have as individuals and do something together that none of us could do on our own, to be able to help the poor and the broken, both in our area and in other places in the world. We just had this dream of God doing something, and we didn't know how it was going to go, but we sensed that God wanted us to do this thing and to take this step, and so we did.
I've truly enjoyed being a part of the music ministry here at Brookview, and it's, for me, been a part of my creative outlet. I think that it wasn't by chance that I had a chance to be here, to be a part of a family. At a different point in my life, it was back in 2013, where I got married, and I decided to go to a different congregation and a different place, and I wasn't able to be free. Free to worship or free to be able to use my gift. And I couldn't be my whole self, and I can't explain what that really looks like. I can only tell you how it lands for me, of when you are used to being able to be genuine, be you, no mask. That's what Brookview does for me. And even when I came back, still no questions asked, just love. I truly believe, during that season that I was going through, Jen called me, texted me, saying, "Hey, you want to come sing sometime?" And I promise you, it was a nudge that I believe God placed in her heart to come find me home, to come bring me back.
So our family did not start out as a typical family. It started out with me dating a teenage mom.
It wasn't until James and I attended Brookview together that we got to experience a new group of people who loved Jaden and I and didn't judge us and loved us for who we were.
Growing up, my dream was always to be a husband and a father. And I became a husband and a father the day I said I do to Alice on our wedding day. And I want to make it official to becoming a father to Jaden by adopting him. It was a random Thursday down in downtown Seattle where we went to the courthouse, and there were so many people from Brookview that I consider now family who showed up in the courthouse just to be with us during that adoption process. And that will be a day in our lives that we will never forget.
We are now a family of 5. God has his fingerprints all over our family. Being a part of the Brookview community has helped shape us into the parents that we want to be. They say that it takes a village to raise a family, and Brookview is definitely a big part of our village.
I feel that God has blessed me with organizational skills, and although I use those for my profession, I felt most satisfied when I used them to organize campaigns for Haiti that have built water projects for those people in Haiti. I've had the opportunity to travel to Haiti 3 times and see firsthand how water has transformed those communities. Water seems like a given in our lives, in our reality, but in the reality of Haiti, it's not a given. So water really changes the ability to live a healthy life, to work because you're not spending time gathering water, and just to live a more productive life and to be able to grow jobs through farming projects. So the wells change more than just a handout. The wells change lives.
The other Sunday I was doing sound, and my son, Michael, came to church, and I was in the sound booth, and I just remember hearing outside everybody, the energy and the love and the joyful talk, and I just had this strong emotional feeling like, I really want this for him. I want him to be part of this. And God just reminded me how much he wants him to be part of this. And I think that kind of illustrates a lot of what it means to be part of this church, is to know that we want people there, but God wants people there more. So very, very cool.
One of my favorite things to serve at Brookview has been to lead the college life group. I've made some lifelong friends here at Brookview, and it will forever be my church home where I met Jesus and learned to walk with him in my life. One of the things that stood out to me in one of Jason's sermons was happiness and where to find it. And I think prior to coming to the Lord, I struggled with that a lot. Happiness is something that's promised to you everywhere, and you're constantly searching for it, or I was. And what he said that resonated with me was that in order to be filled up, you have to find a way to pour yourself out. I think in a nutshell, God was able to take a very self-destructive heart and turn it into one that truly loves people.
I love this story. I don't know if Jen will like this story, but I remember when I first started attending Brookview, I was sort of putting my toe in the water of maybe doing some children's ministry things, but I had all these ideas about, well, I work with kids during the week, so I don't want to do too much kids, and also I'm not good at working with adults, so I need to do something where I don't have to work with adults a lot. And I remember Jen calling me out on that right away. As soon as it came out of my mouth, she said, well, that's ridiculous. And I feel like she's been a friend and a mentor to me since that very moment, and I've grown through that. So I just have this unique opportunity of working with the volunteers that work with the kids. So when the kids have a great time, that's awesome. But when I hear volunteers saying that they had an incredible morning and that they were delighted in what they got to teach the kids, that means something. I know for sure that one day my son will be setting up hospitality in the morning. So all those treats that you get to eat, as soon as he learns not to sneeze on the food, he for sure will be organizing the cups, and he'll have joy in doing that. I know it, and I know one day my daughter will be coaching soccer camp. I just know it, and they have this heart for it, and I think that it's wonderful to be in a place that they get to see other people investing in this thing that we do together. It's a very special thing, and I know for me, as soon as I stepped out to be involved in what's going on is when I became known and got to know other people. And that was a huge part of becoming a part of what's happening here.
So our marriage was rocky from the get-go. We didn't really ever learn how to communicate well. And so we started off marriage that way. And it got to a point where we basically became a separated couple. I was living with my parents and he was living at our house.
We finally reached out to our village Jen and Jason, we asked them for help to try and help counsel us as basically a cry for help.
If it weren't for the grace of God and for our village at Brookview, we would definitely be divorced. There's no question.
We have a family now. We have a young son at 6 months old and 2 dogs, and we'll probably have some more babies once the dust settles with the first baby, you know.
All right, my whole life I've been a perfectionist. When I grew up, I felt like I had to earn the love and respect of my parents. And this eventually boiled down into how I perceived God as my father. This inevitably led to frustration, disappointment, and shame when I would inevitably fall short. Being in Brookview has really taught me that I'm a divine child of God, and there's nothing that I can do to make him love me any more or any less. I can't tell you how incredibly freeing this makes me feel.
Chris and I started going to Brookview about 15 years ago. We got married shortly after we were going to Brookview, and a year into our marriage, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. We decided to start a family despite the scary diagnosis. We have 2 daughters that are 3 years apart. Cancer took Chris from us in January of 2018. He was 34 and our daughters were 9 and 6. Chris fought hard, and our church family stood by our side, offering prayer nights and meals, childcare, but the most important thing was intentional friendships to me and Chris. Our friends at Brookview loved Chris so well in his final months. They rallied around me while I was his main care provider. Our kids are 10 and 7 now, and they ask hard questions, but their faith is strong. I think their faith is strong because they have a lot of people in their life that's loving them well. Our family looks different now than it used to look, and it looks way different than what I had ever dreamed it would look like. But doing life with Brookview has made all the difference in our faith.
I grew up in the church, but running far and fast from the church seems to be a typical prospect of being a wayward youth. So that's what I did, and married the wrong person for the wrong reasons. And after that marriage exploded, I found myself completely alone and isolated from my family and my friends, and I was alone with 2 kids now and a million questions. God to me was quite the illusion that people would buy into to get a ticket to avoid damnation. I ended up coming to Brookview a little reluctantly with my sister. I realized that God isn't this thing that's outside of people or just outside of reach, or this illusion that people buy into, but rather I see God in everyone's hands and everyone's eyes with the way they interact with and look at the world around them. And I keep coming here because my life has gotten so much better. It's no longer a disconnect between God and living a life of servitude and love toward people, but rather that's how you find God, is living a life that is full of love.
So it's been 15 years at Brookview, and we didn't know what to expect. And God has done some extraordinary things in people's lives, and that's what's so meaningful to me. It isn't about total numbers of people at church. It isn't about the building or any of that. It's about the stories, and it's about who we are together. And that has just been mind-blowing. And the cool thing to me is I feel like I'm just getting started. We're just getting warmed up in this thing in some ways. And God has positioned us to be able to do so much more. And that's my dream, that we would rally together and that God would fill us with His Spirit, and we would pour ourselves out together to do more and to see lives touched.